Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Unplugged Woodworking's podcast. So I've literally just got back home like about 2 days ago, so I haven't had a great deal of time to do the things I want to do, obviously. I did manage to get outside and I glued some boards together just to make some legs up, and that's going to be for the for the ongoing kitchen breakfast slashy whatever. It's going to be some sort of table thingy bob. So yeah, it is getting there very slowly, but I am progressing towards it. So what impressed me, I did see something that I haven't seen before, and this was a Japanese craftsperson, I believe, using a big canna. I'm sure we've all seen the big cannas. For anyone that doesn't know, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Canna. That's a Japanese wooden plane, and the bigger ones, the wider ones rather, and longer. The only place I've typically seen them being used is in competitions, and that's basically same again for those that haven't seen the competitions. Basically, they try and get the finest shaving like possible. And some of these shavings, as some would know, are ridiculously fine. You know, it's like they're like I don't know how I would describe, but they're super thin. You know, you can basically see through them, they're that thin. So I did actually see this guy, and he's actually using it for a practical method. Now, it might actually just be my lack of knowledge with Japanese planes and craftspeople in general, because I haven't really delved into the history of it. The last time I did look towards the history of, like, you know, not so much the history of it, but like kind of how to use the tools, you know, the saws and the planes and whatnot, and setting them up and whatever. There doesn't seem to be a lot of information at the time, so it has been several years since I've researched it, so it might actually be something to revisit. But anyway, this guy, he's actually using this to finish off some sort of beams. So the beams have got a tenant, I think, on the end. I think they've got a tenant on the end, and he's just using these to basically to finish them, kind of like you know, the preparation, what we would do, the Westerners, if you like. You know, like kind of last knockings, you would sand a thing, then you would apply a varnish. One of the things, if you're going to plane something and the blade is nice and sharp, you're going to get a beautiful glass finish. Obviously, I'm surmising I've already got this video up on the screen, so you should be able to see how pristine the finish is. It's like, it's literally a glass finish. So that kind of impressed me. It's only something simple, but it's the first time I've actually seen it in a practical use. Maybe they do this all the time and I just haven't seen it. But that was pretty cool. So I've had 2 questions in the last couple of weeks. One of them was today. So I'm going to kind of expand on these questions, like on the answers rather. And the second one, I'm going to go a bit more into depth. So the first question was by Jalaba, if I'm saying that right, Woodworks, and basically he asked about the video. This was the last video I posted. I'll put it up here if you want to check it out, or there'll be a link in the description if you want to go to my Instagram. So he was asking how I got such a good glue up with the boards being warped. So I kind of explained that, so I'm going to kind of go into that a little bit. So basically, when I've been building the kitchen breakfast bar, I've kind of been building it on the fly. I've had a rough idea of what I'm doing. Kind of I was actually thinking about putting some more dovetails at the other side, so it was going to be pretty much the same as this table that's in front of us, pretty much just an N shape. But after the damage that occurred, I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but the damage that occurred while cutting the dovetails in general, the Japanese style dovetails, it kind of put us off a little bit because some of the beech is so soft. It's like ridiculously soft, so easy to damage. So that kind of deterred us a little bit. So I decided to go with some legs. So the issue I had with the legs was that I would either have to go out and buy some leg blanks. It was only 2. It wouldn't have cost us a great deal of money. Having said that, I would have had to have travelled for it as well. I have actually just been for wood, but obviously I wasn't overly thinking about it. So it was either a case of paying for it, going to get it, or using some of the boards I had. Also bearing in mind that the boards had some cupping. So for anyone that doesn't know cupping, if you look at the length, whatever length it is, let's just say a 2.1 meter length. This board was 200 mil in width, and it was 21 millimeters, I think, in thickness. So basically, it had what you would call cupping, and this cupping went all the way down the board. That's probably a little bit of an exaggeration. So rather than obviously go out and buy some leg blanks and then have to plane them all up and everything, which in my opinion it would have looked better. I did actually post a picture of this the other day, and like I had somebody say, what's wrong with lamination? I quite like the edge, and same again, it's just my preference. I personally think it would have looked better, you know, if you couldn't see the lamination, but obviously each to their own. So what I decided to do was actually to cut the thing in half, and basically glue it back together. So the thing when you're doing this, what I don't tend to see, there's probably a lot of people that do know this, but what I don't see people explaining it or even using this technique. So obviously, if you've got the cupping, you saw that board in half, you're minimising the curvature. So with the curve minimised, it's leaning more towards being straight. Obviously we know it's not going to be straight because there's still going to be a curve on the top, an arc on the top, and a convex. Is that right? Convex, like underneath. Obviously I'm exaggerating here. So if you have got a slight thing like this, the time you've cut it in half, it is going to minimise quite a lot. So, you know, to go further into the question, if you still have got like quite a lot, when you're actually gluing the boards together, make sure you're gluing them like so. So basically, you've got the arch of the board going into the convex. Is it convex? Concave, sorry. I always get these mixed up, you know. Basically the underside of the arch. So if you've got them going like that, they're going to marry quite nicely. If you're using the same board, the curvature will tend to be pretty uniform. That's not a given though, you know, that's not 100% all of the time, but usually it's pretty uniform. So if you cut the thing bang in half on one side and on the other side, you should have nigh on the same sort of arc. So when you're marrying these together and you're gluing them, you should have a pretty nice seal, rather than doing it around the other way, which would give you the concave and create a little bit of a gap. So that's what I like to do. I like to do that, and basically it saved us quite a lot of planing, because if I hadn't cut the thing in half, I would have obviously had to have planed the hump off it, turned it around, and then planed the two protruding edges. So obviously it's going to take a lot of work, because as we all know, I do everything by hand, and it would have took a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of effort. Plus I'm losing quite a lot of material. So by doing this, obviously the boards can be replaced, you know, when I need them. I can go out and I can purchase some new boards. So it means I didn't have to go out and purchase like blanks. So when the things are dried, which they actually are right now, but I haven't actually took a plane to them. It just means there's actually minimal planing on the two faces where the cuppage actually is. It's very minimal. You know, I'm talking maybe on the arch side of it. I'm talking maybe, you know, a decent setting on a plane, maybe, you know, half a dozen swipes with a plane in it, and that should be pretty much out. Which obviously is really good. So it's not gonna take us like a really long time to do. So something else that I mentioned on the same subject, I have actually used this technique if there's been like bad cuppage in a board. So meaning to actually reuse the board rather than cut it and glue it up, you know, into a leg. I'm talking about like using the board again. So same again, obviously if the cuppage, you've got cuppage in your board, so same again, cut the thing in half. You know, let's argument's sake, let's just say it's 200 millimeters again in width. Cut the thing in half, and obviously this depends on how bad your cuppage is. Sometimes the cuppage is too bad and you can't do this, but sometimes you are able to get away with it. So what I would do, and I have done this in the past, is actually rip straight down the middle, and the two edges that have been ripped, square them up with just with your jack plane or your whatever plane you're going to use, and basically just literally glue them back together. So kind of, if you could imagine, you've cut the board in the middle, and you might have, just because of the cuppage, you may have like a, I don't know, let's just say it might be 85 degrees to the face of the board. So by you actually planing that 90 degrees, you're actually removing some of the cuppage, if that makes sense. Obviously, as I said, this does have its limitations. So sometimes what is actually better, and I've only done this a couple of times, and this is a bit of work, but actually follow the procedure, cut it in half, then actually take a pass on the two arches, or the two top pieces that are arching over. Take a pass on there, and then glue them back together. Once everything's glued back together, clean the board up, turn it over, and a little bit more planing on the back side. So this is a bit more work, but it's still less work than what you would have to do if you just started planing the board without cutting it or anything. Obviously this is just my opinion, but I think it's a particularly good technique. This is probably better if you've got some power tools, or you've even better, you've got a machine shop, or use of a machine shop. But I hazard a guess that if you've got a machine shop, you probably already know about this method. I mean, if you cut that in half, cut the board in half, you've only got to take it through the table saw, yeah, then take it through the jointer thicknesser. You know, it's going to be super quick, and it's still a way to you know, not lose like a vast amount of your material, which you would do if you were just to actually, like, you know, trying to plane the arch out before actually cutting the thing in half. So the second question that I got was from Bojan. I hope I'm saying that correctly. This is a guy from Germany, and he was basically saying that he's kind of just started woodworking by hand. I'm not sure if that's kind of, if he was using machines before that. I can't quite remember the email. Somewhere along the lines, but I do know he has just like started woodworking with hand tools. So, some of the stuff similar to what I'm doing. And his question, he did have like a couple of questions, but I'm gonna like kind of go into depth a little bit with these. So the kind of first concern was that he wasn't seeing a lot of progress. His time was limited. Obviously, a lot of people's time's limited. People have got jobs, obviously myself included. Obviously, I've just spent 3 weeks away from home working. On the plus side, I have got nearly 3 weeks off work now because that's how my shift pattern works. But for a lot of people, they don't have that, and basically they're working 9 to 5 jobs, as we all know. They'll come home. Some people have got children, and some people have got other commitments. So sometimes you just kind of can't get as much time as you would like. But I'm going to go into that a bit further. So bear with us on that one. So he was basically saying he wasn't seeing a lot of progress. He says he's built kind of a few projects, but from what I gather from the email, reading in between the lines, he was a bit frustrated because when he's doing something, he's not seeing a lot of progress basically. So he has my take on it. He has obviously only my opinion, and everybody's opinion is going to differ, but this is advice pretty much that I give him. Obviously I'm going to expand on it a little bit more, so if you're watching, hopefully this will explain it a little bit better. So tools, this might be a given for a lot of people. It might seem like a bit of common sense, but I tend to find it gets overlooked. Make sure you've got decent tools. When I say decent tools, I don't mean go out and spend £400 or £500 on 2 planes, Lee Nielsen planes. Although if you haven't got the money, knock yourself out. I know I would, but I don't. When I say decent tools, I don't mean kind of go out and the best money can buy. That's not what I mean. What I mean is get a good quality tool. It doesn't necessarily have to be expensive, but it's good. The quality build's good. You've got a decent blade in there. It's not damaged or anything like that, and the tool itself is not damaged. I mean, I've got my Stanley number 4. Sorry, is it Stanley number 4? Is it record number 4? Stanley number 4, Bailey pattern. It's got a corrugated underside or sole. I'm guessing it's probably somewhere maybe 1950s, I'm guessing. So obviously it's a lot older than me, and it's absolutely great. I can't remember how much I paid for it. I think it might have been about £30 I paid for, £20-30, worth every single penny and more. Obviously I took the old blade and chip breaker out of it. I'm not a fan of the old plain irons and chip breakers. I personally don't think they're thick enough, and I think they give how to put this another way, the aid and chatter. So I don't like to use them. So when I swapped from the original plain irons to a Hawk iron, and I've also got I kind of think of the guy's name. These are actually available on Workshop Heaven. Is it Ray Eels? I want to say Ike's Eels, something like that. But they're pretty decent as well. So once I upgraded them, that's kind of all I've done to the plane. So kind of going back to the decent tools, it's like you want to be looking for stuff like that. As I said, you don't have to go out and buy super expensive tools. Just get a good set of tools. Same again, me personally, I've got 5 chisels that I use. Don't get us wrong, I would like to have a bit of a bigger set, but I don't see them as a necessity at the moment. Possibly in the future, if someone wants to buy us a present and they want to spend that much money on us, I'll probably say, yeah, I'll have those sort of. But don't think you've got to go out and buy like a great deal of tools, you know, like a basic toolkit. I wrote a blog some time ago, a couple of years ago I think now, and it was kind of the tools I would recommend, the essential tools that'll get us buying, like, will make quite a lot of like pieces of furniture. Sorry guys, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here. So with those tools, make sure they're sharp. Same again, it might be common sense to some people it might not be. One of the things for me when I started using hand tools was that I was super lazy with like sharpening things. I really didn't like sharpening. I mean, I don't mind it so much now, but it's not one of my favourite tasks. But I will say a lot of the time it's worth just stopping what you're doing and sharpening the tool. If it's a chisel, sharpen it. If it's the plane, just sharpen it. The only thing I will do to get around this, obviously I can't do it with the chisels, but with the planes, if I know my number 4 is sharp, I'll use me number 4 when I should be using me number 5, or it would be better for us to use me number 5, but I know in the back of my mind I can get away with using me number 4, I'll do that, or vice versa. You know, if the number 4's like in bad condition, it needs sharpened, but I know the number 5's sharp, I'll just use a number 5. Or alternatively, if I really got to use the number 4 for whatever reason, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I have known myself in the past just to swap them around, just to swap the plane irons around, because a number 4 and a number 5 plane irons will fit either one, so that's kind of a good thing about that. Next on the list, one of the things I wrote down was that be realistic about the piece that you're building. Kind of what I mean by that is like, if you're getting frustrated because you're not seeing a lot of progress, and again, this just depends on what you're building, but me personally, what I try to do, I try to look at what I'm doing. If I'm getting frustrated, I tend to walk away from stuff. If something's really annoying us or frustrating us, I'll take a day or two away from it if it's that bad. Although what I do try to do now, I try to be realistic about the time frame. So if I'm actually building, let's just say a table, there's actually a table just behind this camera, and it's a simple stake table. There's actually no glue, it's actually 2 boards together. There's actually a batten underneath. This is nailed into place with some rosewood nails and rose head nails, and I've basically just took my brace and bit and drilled 4 holes into it. Obviously created a rake and splay on the legs, painted the legs black and put some varnish on the top of it. So that I done that in a day. That was super simple. So that's one example. So going from that to another example of building a chest of drawers. Building a chest of drawers isn't going to be done in a day. So I know this is one extreme from another, but you have got to be realistic about what you're building. So if you're not seeing a lot of progress, like I'm building a chest of drawers, so like how many dovetails are involved in the drawers, you know, dovetails do take time to cut, so it kind of be realistic in that sense. It's like the framework, the carcass itself, dovetail together, which if I was making a chest of drawers, I probably would, at least the top. Obviously that's just my preference to do something like that. But going back to it, you have got to be realistic about, you know, the time frame. It's you know, as I said, like that table boshed out in a day, not a problem, but the chest of drawers, you know, depending on how frustrated I get or the weather outside or things that are happening in my life, it could take us weeks to do. You know, obviously this isn't a full-time gig for me. You know, I have tried it a couple of times, and I have done it in between jobs, but at the moment it's not a full-time gig, so as I said, it might take me weeks, and if you're building stuff for yourself, you know, it's same again, it might take you weeks, it might take you a day. So that is like something to really take into consideration. Another thing that I do, again, this might seem like common sense to a lot of people, it might not. I think if you're probably a woodworker or a wood machinist, you'll know all about batching, and there's a lot of people that don't. And for a long time I didn't do this. So basically batching or task batching. Basically this would be, you know, let's just say I'm making a chest of drawers, for instance. So let's just say I've made the carcass itself, and now I'm making the drawers. So what would be better, and what I would personally do, and same again if you work in a machine shop or whatever, I'm gathering, don't quote it on this because I've never worked in a machine shop, but I'm gathering it would be pretty much the same as what I would be doing. So the front, backs and sides of the drawers, I would mill them, I would cut them all to width, I would rip them to width, rip them to length, and I would do that with all the drawers. I wouldn't do it with just one drawer. So let's just say there's 4 drawers in total, so that's kind of batching one task. So once I've done all of them, I don't have to rip anymore, if that makes sense, if I'm explaining myself correctly. So just to give you an idea of what I used to do, I don't know if this was because I was so passionate about it, and I got blindsided by just wanting to kind of finish off like a project or a drawer at a time or something like that. But the old me, this is what I would do if I was making a chest of drawers. So I would literally mill the material for one drawer. So I would rip it by hand, and I would plane it, and then I would cut the tails on one corner. Bearing in mind we've got the dovetails on all 4 corners, so I would cut the tails on one corner, marry it up, mark out for the pins, and then cut the pins. So to break this down a little bit, to try and explain where I'm going with this, so the way that I cut tails is basically I'll be kneeling on the floor, and I'll have the tail portion board sat on my room and workbench, and I'll cut in a vertical position. Obviously using my Japanese saw, so I'll do that, and then from there, if I'm not batching, which I do now, but this is what I used to do in the past, I would actually make a valley with my chisel, and then I would move the board, set up my notch accessory, and basically fix it to that, and I would remove the waste. So I like to remove the waste when the piece is vertical rather than horizontal, because obviously I cut the saw is cutting the saw is cutting vertical, but the piece is actually lying horizontal when I'm cutting the tails. So then I like to put the tails, fix it in position, whether it be with a toolbox or the notch accessory, so that the workpiece is then vertical, and I like to remove the waste material like so with a coping saw. Once I've finished using a coping saw, put the piece back down, and use my chisel and clean up the shoulder lines. So you can kind of see I've went from lying the piece on the bench to lifting the piece up, setting it up, putting it, clamping it, removing the waste, and then putting it back down. So you can see I'm moving around a lot, plus I'm using different tools. So this is what I do now, and this is what I recommend to do to people that are using hand tools and I've got like a lot of the same tasks. Cut one corner of tails. Obviously get yourself sorted out where you know you're going, get your tools ready and they're out, done and dusted, and then just cut all of them. So if you've got four drawers to make, cut every single tail for all the corners of the drawers. Once you've done that, get the things up, get it set up for the if you're going to use like a notch accessory, or even if you're using a tall bench and you're putting it in a vise, clamping it in the vise, then you can remove all of the waste material for every single drawer. So on and so forth. You see where I'm going with here? So you're not swapping from tool to tool to tool to position to position to position. You're in one. You're kind of getting yourself in a workflow. You've got everything ready. You're concentrating on one task, and you're going through that task, and it does speed the process up. It really makes things faster. And I would advise anyone to adopt this. Obviously, this is just my opinion and this is advice I'm giving, so each to their own, but I find this a lot better, but that's just me. So next on the list is practice makes perfect. That's a given. You know, I can't stress enough, like, from when I first started like cutting dovetails, however many years ago it was now, like a long time ago now, so I can't stress the amount of time it used to take us to cut just 2 dovetails. You know, I'm talking maybe a board like 100mm, and I had 2 dovetails in there, so that's 2 dovetails and three shoulders. So when I first started cutting dovetails, and I've touched on this before, I don't like cutting joints, especially dovetails, and not having anything at the end of it. So, and I've touched on this a few times, like, basically you've got people on YouTube or on Instagram, and each to their own. I'm not having a pop at anyone, but this is just my personal preference. So they'll cut the dovetail and then they'll cut the board, and then they'll like write on day 1 or week 1 or whatever, and by like day 30 they'll have 30 like little pieces, like little corners of wood. And you'll see the progression of their dovetails, which that's totally cool. But for me, I kind of like to use it, if that makes sense. So as what I'd done, I started making little boxes, and I would dovetail all 4 corners, and I would just basically glue a square bottom. And you know, these were only like I don't know what they were, maybe 100 by 100, like cubed, like 100 cubes, something like that. And I used to just put nails in them. Not nails, screws. At the time, obviously, I'd done quite a lot of work with screws, so I was just putting screws in them. And I think to make one of these boxes, or at least to kind of do all the 4 corners, it was taking somewhere in the region of like maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. Now I'm not using a vise, and I think something like that, I reckon I could have the whole box made in about half an hour, probably. That's depending on how much the material's milled and so on and so forth, but you can say like from an hour and a half to 2 hours to half an hour. So practice really does make perfect. Obviously, the more you woodwork, the more confident you get. Same with dovetails again. I kind of remember when I was making dovetails, when I first started cutting dovetails, I was like, I hope I don't screw up, I hope I don't screw up. And I used to say that all the way through the process. I hope I don't screw up, I hope I don't screw up. And then it got to the point where I was getting a little bit better, and like I kind of started making furniture for people and selling it. So when I was when I was cutting the dovetails for that, I was like, I hope I don't screw up, I hope I don't screw up. This is a lot of money, this material's a lot of money. You know, at the time when I first started making it, like 9 out of 10, I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together, you know. So I was more kind of worried about screwing it up, because I didn't have the money to replace the timber, or if I did, I was going to be out of pocket. So fast forward to now, I don't even think about it. It's like I've cut so many. I don't know how many I've cut, but I've cut so many. But the point I'm getting at is, the more you practice, the less that's going to bother you, and you're going to become quicker with it. You're going to become a lot quicker with it. As I said, now I just cut them. I don't worry about making mistakes. I just cut them, and obviously that just comes with experience, and it comes with practice. There's a big difference, as I say, from day one to now. There's like a major difference. So it's same again, if you're kind of there with any sort of joint, or you're kind of there with any piece of furniture, just remember, the more you practice, the quicker you're going to get. You're going to become more proficient at everything. You're going to be, just your setup, your mind frame, your workflow, everything's going to get better, and as it gets better, it will get quicker. So the last one for today was, the guy was kind of saying he's like kind of struggling with like time management. So my thing for that, or my suggestion for that, was that start making things you want to make, like things you're really passionate about. Like an example for me would be the first time I done Japanese dovetails. Like obviously I cut traditional dovetails, I cut like loads and loads of them, and I was quite proficient at cutting them and getting good results. So for whatever reason, I was like, right, I'm going to cut these Japanese dovetails. First attempt, so into it, so engrossed into it, and I just blasted into it. I think the first time I cut Japanese dovetails was when I done a blanket chest, and this is for myself. I still own the blanket chest. I'll put a picture up of it. So I was so engrossed into it, I just blasted into it. Time didn't matter at the time. It did not matter. I mean, another example, I can't think of a specific project, but I can remember like times where I've been like working till 10, 11 o'clock, not because I had to, but kind of because I was so engrossed in the task at hand. I was like enjoying myself so much. It's like a chair, like there's a chair just over there. I'm pointing into the corner here, and I really enjoyed making that. And again, the time didn't matter. It was a summertime, and obviously in the summertime the nights are a lot lighter, so I'm able to work like longer hours if I choose to. You know, and I was working just stupid amount of hours just to get this chair finished, but because I wanted to. So the point I'm trying to make is that if you're having trouble managing like time, you know, that time where you might sit down with your wife or your husband or whatever, or you might just want to sit down by yourself and watch, I don't know, some series that's on Netflix. So you kind of maybe say, oh, well, I really want to watch this series, but there's that to do, type of thing. But whereas if you're so engrossed in the project, you're going to be like, I'll just watch that whenever, and you'll go into it, and you'll make time, and you find time. And I've done that myself so many times, and I think this could be used not necessarily just with woodworking, but like with other things in life. If you find something you enjoy so much, and it pleases you, you will find time for it. that's my take on it anyway. So I think I've yabbered on enough as usual, but really appreciate the question or questions. As I said, if you want to send us any questions, I will try and answer them. You can email us at unpluggedwoodworking@gmail.com, or you can just leave a comment on the Instagram, or even send us a message on Instagram or whatever, you know. That's it today, guys. Thanks very much for listening, commenting. Really appreciate everybody that does this and shares and whatever else. Really appreciate it. So until the next time, I shall say and speak to you guys later.